Hi, family, friends. I started 7th grade in Virginia, in Raymondale. Started it in September, as one does. And we moved to New Zealand in November of that year. And New Zealand's seasons are reversed. So we were coming up on summer, and school was out. I went to school briefly in New Zealand, and a little yikes. It was, I can't even describe this school. It was called Kilburney, and you could see through the floor, you could see through the walls. It was freezing. I was unimpressed. It was just tiny and cold, and I didn't know what I was doing. You'd think I'd be able to grasp the language because it was English, and it was English, but wow, the accent was hard to understand sometimes. And the teacher the first day said, "All right, time for the math quiz." So I got out my paper, and she rattled off 10 questions, including one about subtracting pounds and pence from pounds and pence, which I didn't know my pounds and pence yet. And she said, "Okay," and I started to work on the first problem. She said, "Hand them in." I'm looking around, everybody else is handing theirs in, and I'm thinking, I've just started the first problem. Turns out we were supposed to do these in our head. In our head. So, like I said, I only went to about 2.5 months of 7th grade. Well, then on the flip side, after I'd been in 6 months of 11th grade, their equivalent, we moved back to America, and school was about to start. And they were trying to figure out where to place me. And they said, "Well, what have you studied so far?" And I said, "I've had 2.5 years of English," this is talking about high school, 2.5 years of English, 2.5 years of French, 2.5 years of arithmetic, 2.5 years of algebra, 2.5 years of geometry, 1.5 years of trig, 2.5 years of social studies, 2.5 years of art and music. I'm sure there was other stuff, but those are the ones that stick in my head. And they looked at me, 2.5 years of physics, 2.5 years of biology, and 2.5 years of chemistry. They said, with all those subjects, it's not very likely that you were able to really learn very much of those things. So we're going to start you over again in 11th grade. I was not happy. I was really not happy. And I just felt like all of my work counted for nothing. So they were planning where to put me, here or there and yon, and they got to French, and they said, "Now, why don't we put you in French 3, since you've had 2.5 years of French already?" And I said, "Oh, no, I'm sure that with all of the other things that I was learning, I didn't learn nearly enough French to go into French 3. And frankly, the vocabulary may be all wrong too, so I better start again at French 1. And they said, "French 1? And I said, "Yeah, start me at French 1, and I would not give." So nobody was happy, but I felt like I got a little point, and I coasted. I coasted through French. My French teacher was mad because I already knew the subject. And ironically, when it was time for me to graduate from Seabreeze in Florida, I got a honors certificate in French, which I never paid any attention to because I knew that whole story. Yeah, you just don't want to cross a stubborn ogle, is what I'm just saying. Just don't want to cross them.